Hello, friends. I wanted to read a parable from one of my favorite books of parables, Edward Hayes' In Pursuit of the Great White Rabbit. He writes books in their small little 2, 5, 7-page parables throughout all of them on practical spirituality. He used to be a Trappist monk years ago, and then he gave that up for a more secular life. So he would be what we call a secular monk and mystic. So I'm going to skip the beginning of this particular parable because it won't make sense. So I'm going to start here. Why do some people live their whole lives in a dynamic religious search while others never begin? Why do some begin with enthusiasm but abandon the quest after a period of time? Why do some people continue their prayer and meditation but reach a point where they stop growing, overcome by the burdens of daily life? These are universal spiritual quandaries, reflected on by people of all creeds over the ages. One answer to these questions comes from this story from the early Christian hermits in the desert of Egypt. It seems that a young aspirant to holiness once came to the hermitage of an old holy man who was sitting in the doorway of his quarters at sunset. The old man's dog stretched out across the threshold as the young spiritual seeker presented his problem to the holy man. Why is it, Abba, that some who seek God come to the desert and are zealous in prayer but leave after a year or so, while others like you remain faithful to the quest for a lifetime? The old man smiled and repeated, "Let me tell you a story. One day I was sitting here quietly in the sun with my dog. Suddenly, a large white rabbit ran across in front of us. Well, my dog jumped up, barking loudly, and took off after the big rabbit. He chased the rabbit over the hills with a passion. Soon other dogs joined him, attracted by his barking. What a sight it was, as this pack of dogs ran barking across the creeks, up stony embankments, and through the thickets and thorns. Gradually, however, one by one, the other dogs dropped out of the pursuit, discouraged by the course and frustrated by the chase. Only my dog continued to hotly pursue the white rabbit." In that story, young man, is the answer to your question. The young man sat in confused silence. Finally, he said, "Abba, I'm sorry, I don't understand. What is the connection between the rabbit chase and the quest for holiness?" "You fail to understand," answered the old hermit, "because you failed to ask the obvious question. Why didn't the other dogs continue on the chase? And the answer to that question is that they had not seen the rabbit. Unless you see your prey, the chase is too difficult. You will lack the passion and determination necessary to perform all the hard work required by the discipline of your spiritual exercises." This opening reflection is about a primal prerequisite for the spiritual journey. You must see the rabbit. If we don't have a real experience of the divine mystery in some form, we will lack the energy necessary to keep the pursuit for holiness. Like the dogs in the hermit's story, we will drop out of the race if we only follow the saints and mystics who have seen the rabbit. If we're only caught up in the enthusiasm of others, we will fail to be constant in our search. Each of us must see the rabbit. So for me, back in 1989, when I first got sober, seeing the rabbit was experiencing the early moments of sobriety that weren't awful. Then the next rabbit was the following year when I started practicing meditation, experiencing some peace, experiencing my mind not going crazy, experiencing some times of relief and simplicity. And I kept practicing, and then seeing the rabbit became being peaceful. And it was more about the other 23 and a half hours a day than the half hour I sat in meditation. A few years later, I started practicing Reiki and was trained in Reiki. So for me, seeing the rabbit with Reiki was seeing my body become more alive. And when I touched people, they had experiences. And when I practiced Reiki with other people, extraordinary things happened. And in my book that just got released, my memoir, I share some of those experiences. Seeing the rabbit of love and connection and intimacy, meaning doing the work to continue to learn how to connect with other people, and that love was worth it and intimacy was worth it, was the actual love, connection, and intimacy. We have to see the rabbit. We can't just go on other people's experiences. If you've ever gone to the gym or started playing basketball or started running after years or months of not doing so, it's really hard to stay with it till our body starts feeling better. It's hard to change what our intake is of foods and what we consume and what our diet preferences are if we don't see the rabbit of feeling something change in our body. So we have to see the rabbit. And that's what keeps the people like myself and other people like myself, the fact that we could stay on the chase and continue to do the work day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and in my case, decade after decade, is because I've seen the rabbit.